With reports of a big heel turn and more, this is Wrestling Hub. My name is John, and you're watching the Wrestling Report. Before we get into the rest of the video, make sure you subscribe to Wrestling Hub and turn on all notifications to stay up to date with everything in the world of pro wrestling. Also, don't forget to follow us on Instagram at Wrestling Hub Official and follow us on Twitter at Wrestling_Hub. Talking about the state of modern pro wrestling, Bret Hart said this to HN Live about WWE and AEW. The old kind of wrestling is sorely missed by a lot of people. If the old wrestling was around, like my dad's wrestling, we'd come to see it. I'm trying to advise my son Dallas and help him deliver the kind of wrestling show that I would enjoy watching, where the wrestlers actually know what a headlock is, rather than doing the scripted ballet and leaping, twirling, and dancing around like a bunch of ballet dancers. I don't really enjoy today's wrestling for those reasons. They've lost a lot of steps towards the reality and the credibility of wrestling. Wrestling, in my opinion, needs to pretend to be real. It always has pretended really hard, almost to the point that you believe it is real. Wrestling is so far-fetched today. When I think of WWE and see 20 wrestlers crowded together outside on the floor and someone dives over the top rope and knocks them all down like bowling pins, I roll my eyes at how pathetic wrestling is today. Top to bottom, all the top wrestlers and all the middle-bottom wrestlers in WWE and AEW all slapping their leg on every punch and slap. It's to the point where I can't watch wrestling today. Sadly, it's getting too phony. I really question the direction that the people that are in charge are taking wrestling. AEW has gone in a bad direction with all the violence and gore. I watched an episode, Dr. Martha Hart doing her big press conference. I'm watching AEW and Jon Moxley is sticking a fork in somebody's head for 5 minutes with a close-up. This isn't wrestling. I would recommend turning all of that off and not watching, because it's not very good. Wrestling is going in bad directions because people don't know what wrestling is or was. It's the people in charge that I question, and I'm not sure who is in charge anymore, especially in WWE. You never know who is in charge from one day to the next. It seems to me that somebody is not paying attention to the details. Back in my day, there was Chief, Jay Strongbow, Pat Patterson, Jack Lanza, who knew exactly what needed to be done and knew the orders to carry out from Vince McMahon each night. There was a better understanding. When you came back after a match, Chief Jay would say, "Don't do this anymore, don't do that, change this." It was always the best advice to people who knew what they were talking about. I don't think that's happening today. I think the people talking to the young wrestlers have absolutely zero idea of how wrestling is. They're all guys who never made it in wrestling, and none of them ever had any ideas. I don't know who is doing the thinking anymore, but someone needs to fire everybody that's in charge in both companies, in all companies. They lack credibility, they are not believable, and the 1980s wrestling was 100 times better than the wrestling today. The best professional wrestling needs to pretend to be real. When it stops pretending to be real, which is all of what they're doing today, it's ridiculous. Speaking about an issue with AEW's roster, commentator for the company Jim Ross said this on his podcast. An argument might be made in AEW that we have too many talents. We got a lot of talent. You don't want to start cutting the roster because that's not my job. I could certainly handle it if it were. But we have a lot of people coming through. Tony Khan is always looking to give guys opportunities. You never know what you'll find. On Busted Open Radio, Saraya recalled her debut promo for AEW as she mentioned the shots she took at WWE. "I was so mortified by the promo myself that I actually second-guessed coming back altogether. Did I just make a mistake? Did I make myself look so awful?" People like Dean Malenko was like, "You went out there, you said on the microphone that you were nervous." I really was. I was terrified. I have never been so terrified in my career. Even when I debuted, won different championships, I was terrified, but not as terrified as coming back after 5 years, going to a different company in front of a new group of fans, in front of all of these people watching you, and they want to see you fail or do good. There was a lot of eyes. The one thing I do wish I didn't say, I got asked to say a certain sentence, the sentence where I was like, finally, a boss that listens to me. I wish I didn't take that low-hanging fruit. I've always spoke highly of WWE because they helped me a lot. I love AEW. There is no reason to take that low-hanging fruit, and I feel that caused a lot of tribalism and negative reaction. There are some things you wish you didn't say, and that's one of them. I feel it would have gone smoother if I wouldn't have said that. I understand why people were mad, but I'm playing a character. Be quiet. With Bayley not coming out with damage control on Raw this week, this was said about the future of the faction in the Wrestling Observer newsletter. In addition, Bayley was told not to go out with Kai and Sky. While not official, there was a belief damage control was being broken up, and a tweet from Bayley indicated that Kai and Sky basically looked like enhancement talent in the presentation of the tag match. The reaction was that Kai was one of the people fired by McMahon, who had no interest in her on the main roster, but she was brought back by Levesque. Similarly, Sky, generally considered one of the most talented women wrestlers in the world, had been in developmental for 3 years with no sign of a call-up. She was headed back to Stardom most likely, where she would be home and where she could have made more money than in WWE developmental. But after McMahon was gone, Levesque brought her to the main roster, and with that money being far above what those in Stardom could earn, she signed a new deal. There was also a strange segment with Seth Rollins where he was in the ring and then said nothing and the segment was over. Touching on what he could be doing in pro wrestling if he is forced to retire from in-ring action, Big E told Pop Culture, "Being able to go to these college campuses and talk to athletes and let them know about WWE and the opportunities here really resonates with me, because I remember being 23 years old and a failed football player at Iowa dealing with a bunch of injuries and then trying to figure out my entire life. I really love being involved in that way, and I'm sure there will be other ways as well that I can be involved while I'm not in the ring." With Jay White recently signing with AEW, this was said about prospective plans made for him in WWE. White signed with All Elite Wrestling on what Fightful Select has confirmed is a multi-year contract. Fightful was able to learn that the deal was in place ahead of WWE WrestleMania 39, and WWE sources were aware that he would not be coming in by then. White's impending free agency first hit our radar around Wrestle Kingdom, when we learned WWE had interest in White. In the following weeks, WWE were even confident they'd land White. Along the way, we're told that Triple H and William Regal both showed interest. However, WWE higher-ups said that the company failed to communicate properly along the process, before noting that AEW landing him over WWE could have been product of Vince McMahon's return and the lack of main roster hires since then. There were communications between Jay White and both WWE and AEW. There were even tentative creative plans made for Jay White in WWE. Revealing an incident with a fan that led to his departure from WWE, Cody Rhodes told Ariel Helwani that there was a lot of rock bottom playing Stardust. Charlotte Flair brought a fan to a show. She told him, "Hey, do you want to meet Stardust?" And I was just not painted up or anything there earlier in the day in like my sweats. And he came up to me, he's like, "You're Stardust?" I was like, yeah. And I used to wrestle as Cody Rhodes. And he was like, "What? Who? What do you mean?" He had no idea that I'd won the Intercontinental title or won some tag titles or legacy. Nothing. Stardust was his only knowledge of me, and that was a rock bottom moment. Following his loss at WrestleMania to Roman Reigns, it seems that Cody Rhodes is on top of his game and selling merch, with Sean Ross Sapp reporting that WWE/WrestleMania generic themed merchandise was the top selling throughout Mania week. We're told Cody Rhodes topped individual superstar sales. Touching on Logan Paul's status with WWE following WrestleMania, the Wrestling Observer newsletter pointed out that Logan Paul, when talking about his contract expiring after WrestleMania, did say he expects to sign a new deal, and during the week, the talk was that he did sign a new deal. Talking about a potential boxing matchup against former UFC fighter Nate Diaz, Paul told BT Sport, "I think he's running. This guy, I think he's ducking. We have the sweetest deal for him, and he knows the type of numbers I bring in. I'm not a 250,000 pay-per-view buys type of fighter. You're going to get 750,000, 1 million buys, and I'm an 0-1 YouTuber. Seems like an easy fight on paper. I don't even care anymore. I thought I had something locked in, but apparently he said the fight was off. Like, why? Why? So he could fight someone else? For what purpose? To get less buys and maybe an easier fight? I don't get it. As far as I know, it's not dead because we had to offer him more money. It's like we're baiting this guy into fighting me. It's hard for me to get a fight because either you're not worth my time and energy, or you're not going to sell pay-per-views. I'll do it, but I need a dance partner, and I don't need a tune-up fight. Give me the real dogs. Nate Diaz is a dog. I was looking forward to that fight. Then I got a call the other day and they said they didn't want to do it. It was almost done. I don't know. Taking to Twitter, Chelsea Green revealed why she had to go to the hospital, writing, "I thought I celebrated my first Mania too hard. Turns out I actually had a severe stomach bug and a distended gallbladder. Thank God the manager of the ER took care of me. Will not be filing any complaints this weekend." As Jeff Hardy was spotted recently and healing from eye surgery, Matt Hardy gave an update on his brother, saying this on his Extreme Life podcast. He just had some eye surgery and he's recovering, probably a few weeks out from being fully physically, but hopefully sooner than later. He'll be up for doing physical stuff again. He did sneak away with his family and go on a little vacation for a few days, which is nice. He's in a really good place in life, and I think he's very happy where he's at. It makes me very proud of him, and it also fills me with joy that he's happy with where he's happy in life. Talking about the possibility of WWE bringing Christian back to the company, the Wrestling Observer revealed that behind the scenes, there was talk of Edge and Christian wanting to team together for one last time or run, but we don't know Christian's contract length and if it would be possible. For the Wrestling Observer newsletter, this was said about Roman Reigns making an appearance at the upcoming Backlash event. Reigns will not be on the San Juan card, or at least that wasn't the plan on Monday, but he will be doing other major events over the next few months. When it comes to the possible heel turn for Trish Stratus in WWE, the Wrestling Observer newsletter noted, if Stratus is doing a turn on Lynch, one would think babyfaces wouldn't take over the belts, and it made more sense to do it against heel challengers, so we'll see how this plays out. All the old rules about making sense don't mean as much when most of the money is guaranteed, and you can really do whatever you want in booking now. And this was your Pro Wrestling News Update. I hope you're all having a great day. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see y'all later.